Closing stores from Rock Hill to Statesville, so definitely know before you go this
Health
morning.
inspectors just threw a penalty flag on one local.
You'll find out that the restaurant is closed.
Health inspectors just threw a penalty flag. Stores are closing. And the founder of the worst chain on this list called his own gravy pure wallpaper paste. His face is still smiling on the bucket your kids ate from last week. 17 live roaches under the soda station. 15-year-olds on a 350-degree fryer line for a $30 fine per kid. Rotten chicken delivered out of someone's garage in an unmarked car. By the end of this, you'll know the 8 to avoid, the 4 you can trust, and the shady corporate web connecting them all. 8. Chick-fil-A. This one is going to make some of you angry, and it should. Not because of what Chick-fil-A did wrong historically, but because of what they just willingly gave up. For years, Chick-fil-A was the golden child. They had the single strongest antibiotic commitment in the entire fast food industry. No antibiotics ever. They implemented it. They staked their massive billion-dollar reputation on it. It was the one sentence in the murky, processed world of fast food that you could actually trust. You felt safe feeding those nuggets to your kids. Then, in March of 2024, they changed it. With a quiet, short website update that most customers never even saw, the standard vanished. The new standard is called No Antibiotics Important to Human Medicine. Read that carefully. It is not no antibiotics. It is no antibiotics important to human medicine. That incredibly specific phrase was engineered by corporate regulators and lawyers, not by cooks. In practice, it means the birds you are eating can absolutely still get antibiotics, just not the specific ones used to treat human beings. They are using animal-only drugs under veterinary oversight. Because apparently, industrial factory farm chickens have their own private pharmacy now. And in the world of industrial farming, the definition of when a bird is sick bends depending on who is holding the clipboard and what the profit margins look like that quarter. They had the gold standard of safety. They traded it for a massive loophole with a longer name. And their own explanation? To maintain supply of the high-quality chicken you expect from us. They did not say the old safe standard was unnecessary. They admitted it was inconvenient. What keeps Chick-fil-A at number 8 is everything they still do right. What put them on this list is the one major foundational thing they chose to stop doing. But the next chain on our list has a completely different strategy. They are a chain that everybody loves, but almost nobody has asked them the one question that actually matters. 7. Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's sells exactly one thing: chicken fingers. That is the entire menu. One protein, one format. You get a piece of toast, some crinkle-cut fries, and a dipping sauce so addictive that reviewers literally call it the only reason to go to the restaurant. The simplicity is the brand. It feels pure. It feels focused. But the simplicity is also the ultimate distraction. Because here is what Raising Cane's will absolutely not tell you: where the chicken comes from. Will they tell you if antibiotics were used? No. Will they name their farms? No. Think about that. Chick-fil-A published their standard. Chipotle publishes theirs. Sweetgreen literally lists the names of their local farms inside the store on a chalkboard. Raising Cane's, a chain that serves nothing but chicken, publishes less about its chicken supply chain than almost any other major fast food chain you know by name. Seriously, a chicken chain that refuses to talk about its chicken. One menu item. 0 sourcing answers. Most restaurants hide their cheap ingredients behind a massive, complicated menu. Cane's managed to hide behind a simple one. And if you think the mystery chicken is bad, let's look at the kitchens. They are not exactly spotless. A New York City location was cited in March of 2024 for food contact surfaces not being properly sanitized. We picked this specific example because it reflects a number of similar quiet reports we've seen when researching the back end of this brand. Here's why Cane's lands at number 7. Nothing catastrophic has happened yet, but they are asking you to love and trust a product while aggressively refusing to tell you what is actually inside of it. Brand love is not brand transparency. And for a company this massive, choosing silence isn't humble. It is deliberate. The next chain on our list doesn't just keep secrets. They charge you premium prices for wings that might actually make you sick. Wait until you hear how their kitchens are running. 6. Wingstop. You are paying $13 for a combo at Wingstop. $13 for fast food wings. So, let's break down exactly what your $13 buys you in terms of kitchen standards. In Reno, Nevada, in April of 2024, a health inspector walked into a Wingstop and did a routine check. They put a thermometer into the chicken. Every single item in that kitchen was being held above 41 degrees. If you don't work in a kitchen, let me explain 41 degrees. That is the bacterial growth zone. That is the temperature where bacteria throw a massive party on raw meat. The inspector didn't issue a warning. They ordered all of it thrown away. All of it. Every single piece of chicken in the building went into the trash. If that inspector hadn't walked in that day, your $13 would have bought you a literal basket of food safety violations. A few months later, a Wingstop in New York City was shut down entirely. Their health inspection score? 46 out of 100. That is a failing grade in any school, in any country, in any industry. This is not just one bad location. This is a terrifying pattern at a chain that loudly touts its digitized safety checklists to investors. If those digital checklists actually exist, the Reno discard and the New York shutdown mean absolutely nobody in the building is reading them. And what about the people working in those hazardous kitchens? In California, state investigators found that a Wingstop franchisee structured multiple locations as completely separate shell companies. Why? To avoid paying 551 employees their legally earned overtime. Wingstop lands at 6 because of documented catastrophic food safety failures, systemic wage theft, and a premium price tag that has zero relationship to the soggy product coming out of that kitchen. Premium branding. Bargain basement standards. If paying $13 for rubbery wings held in a bacterial danger zone makes your blood boil, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. Let's send a clear message to these asset-light corporations that we see exactly how they treat their food and their workers. And make sure you subscribe to the channel because we do these deep dive investigations every single week, and the corporate lies do not stop here. 5. Church's Texas Chicken. They shut it down on the spot. September of 2025. Des Moines, Washington. Health inspectors walked into a Church's Texas Chicken and issued an immediate, non-negotiable closure. The official designation on the paperwork? Imminent health hazard. That phrase isn't thrown around lightly. That means the conditions inside the kitchen were so dangerous, so fundamentally broken, that the general public could not legally be allowed inside the building. Doors locked. Lights out. How does a legendary Southern chicken brand reach the level of an imminent health hazard? Look at who owns it. Church's is currently owned by High Bluff Capital Partners. They are a private investment company. They buy businesses to squeeze money out of them. Spoiler alert, they also own Quiznos, which is a whole other tragedy. Look at how the people who bought Church's talk about it in their press releases. They use phrases like value-oriented market, exciting growth potential, and significant white space for expansion. Notice what is missing. Not a single word about chicken. Not a single word about food quality, recipes, or customer experience. They wrote a love letter to the financial spreadsheet and completely forgot to mention dinner. And the health inspections across the country tell the rest of the sad story. A Niagara region location was cited for fundamental hand-washing failures. Customers at an Oakland location described a dystopian experience in their reviews. The floor was sticky, the chicken was dry, the whole place smelled like it had given up. The word that keeps coming up in thousands of reviews is greasy, but not good greasy. Not the satisfying crunch of crispy skin. We are talking about heavy, industrial grease. The kind of greasy that sits like a rock in your stomach and makes you wonder exactly how many hours that specific piece of chicken was sitting in the fryer basket before it landed in your cardboard box. Church's lands at 5 because the private equity extraction is textbook. The health inspections are dire. And the brand identity crisis tells you everything you need to know about where the priorities went. But next up is a chain famous for biscuits that people will drive hours to get. Wait until you hear what is crawling around the kitchen making them. 4. Bojangles. 17 live roaches. 4 dead ones, and an accumulation of roach droppings on the shelving underneath the soda station in the lobby. Read that again. The soda station in the lobby. That is not hidden in the back near the dumpster. That is where you stand. That is where your grandkids put their cups down to get ice. That is exactly what state health inspectors found at a Bojangles in Ocala, Florida, on April 9, 2025. Unsurprisingly, the restaurant failed the inspection. But here is the kicker. They came back 5 days later for the mandatory reinspection. It failed again. 5 days later. The same kitchen, the same roaches. This is not an isolated incident at one bad location. The decay is systemic. Let's look at the map. Charlotte, North Carolina. 2 B grades in July of 2025 for flies in the 1025 for flies in the kitchen and serving undercooked sausage. Adairsville, Georgia. An inspection score of 55 out of 100. That is not a grade. That is a cry for help. Lexington, South Carolina. A C grade for an employee handling food with decorated acrylic nails and no gloves, plus no hand washing between contamination events. No hand washing between contamination events. That terrifying phrase should not exist in a sentence about a restaurant serving food to human beings. 4 different states. The exact same pattern of horrific hygiene. What happened to Bojangles? The same thing that happened to churches. Bojangles was taken private in 2019 by 2 massive investment firms, Durational Capital and the Jordan Company. When they bought it, the managing partner released a statement calling it an exciting next chapter that would strengthen operations. That was the corporate promise. 17 live roaches by the soda machine in Ocala. That is the actual chapter they wrote. Drop the name of the fast food chain you are never going back to in the comments right now. Every single one of them will be read. Because the next chain is facing a lawsuit so disgusting, it will make you swear off their spicy chicken forever. 3. Popeyes. In 2025, a major poultry supplier sued Popeyes for a staggering $35 million. Lawsuits happen in business all the time, but the details of this specific lawsuit are pure nightmare fuel. The lawsuit explicitly alleges that the supplier warned Popeyes that a rival meat provider was selling rotten and unsafe raw chicken out of residential garages. They alleged this garage chicken was being delivered in unmarked personal vehicles without any proper refrigeration. So, what did Popeyes do with this horrifying information? According to the court filings, the supplier who raised the alarm and blew the whistle got dropped. The rival supplier allegedly peddling the garage chicken? Popeyes kept them. And the local kitchens confirm the corporate neglect. A Popeyes in Street, Catharines, Ontario, was closed twice in a single month for insect infestation. They were fined a pathetic $580. For a global chain doing billions in revenue, $580 is not a penalty. It is a rounding error. It is the cost of doing dirty business. Repeat closures at the same location is not a staffing issue. It is a fundamental management philosophy of total apathy. Reviewers who have actually stripped the famous breading off the chicken describe the meat underneath as bland, watery, and highly industrial. Yes, the spicy seasoning is delicious and real. But what is that heavy spice covering up? Pale, rubbery chicken that tastes like it came off an assembly line or out of a garage. That is the part they don't put on the glossy poster. The thick breading is not a recipe, it is a disguise. Popeyes lands at number 3 because a $35 million lawsuit alleging rotten garage chicken is not a PR problem. It is a supply chain confession. Add the repeat insect closures and the billion-dollar shareholder payout, and the picture is crystal clear. The spice is funding Toronto. It isn't feeding you safely. If seeing the corporate strings pulled back makes you rethink your fast food habits, hit the subscribe button right now. We expose the truth behind the food industry every single week, and trust me, the lists do not get shorter. Because the next chain used to be a premium Southern favorite. Then Goldman Sachs bought in, and what they did to the kitchens makes everything else on this list look like a warm-up. 2. Zaxby's black slime. That is exactly what the health inspector found actively growing inside the ice machine at a Zaxby's in Bainbridge, Georgia, in June of 2024. Heavy mildew and black slime completely coating the food contact surfaces of the machine that makes the ice that goes directly into your cup. The inspector shut down the ice service immediately. Think about that. You might have been drinking a sweet tea from that exact machine the day before the inspector arrived. How does a premium chicken finger chain fall so hard? The Department of Labor investigated and found Zaxby's franchises in Georgia actively using 15-year-old children to operate deep fryers without any required safety devices. They were working grueling hours that blatantly violated federal child labor laws. The penalty for this? $15,533. Do the math. That is less than $30 per kid. They were caught exploiting 15-year-olds on boiling vats of oil at the exact chain Goldman Sachs bought to accelerate growth. And then there is the court case that stops this entire list cold. A 2024 lawsuit alleges that a 17-year-old pregnant employee explicitly asked her manager to move her from the cook position, which was described as intensely hot and physically dangerous, to the cashier job she was originally hired for. According to the lawsuit, she was told, "This is not going to work," and was immediately sent home. A pregnant teenager asked not to stand over a 350-degree deep fryer for hours. The answer she got was the door. Combine that with a location in Villa Rica, Georgia, that was completely shut down after a disastrous 2024 inspection. Combine it with thousands of recent reviews describing portions that have magically shrunk since the Wall Street acquisition, and chicken with a texture reviewers call cardboard crispy, meaning it is dry, hollow, and crumbling into dust instead of actually crunching. Zaxby's lands at number 2 because Goldman bought growth, and the local kitchens paid the bloody price. Black slime in the ice, children working the fryer lines, a pregnant teenager allegedly shown the door, and a founder who welcomed Wall Street with open arms. That is what corporate acceleration looks like when nobody is watching the kitchen. Everything on this list has built up to what you are about to hear. The number 1 worst chain did not get here by accident. The founder tried to warn us. 1. KFC. Colonel Harlan Sanders spent years of his life obsessing over his chicken. He perfected the exact second the meat should come out of the fryer. He had rigid, uncompromising opinions about oil temperature, the precise mechanics of the pressure cooker, the flakiness of the biscuit, and especially the richness of the gravy. He mixed the legendary 11 herbs and spices himself and guarded that recipe like a military state secret. And when the corporation finally took over and changed absolutely everything he had spent his entire life getting right, he did not go quietly into the night. He publicly called the new corporate gravy horrible and pure wallpaper paste. He called the new crispy recipe a damn fried dough ball stuck on some chicken. That was the founder speaking. The man whose smiling face is still plastered on every single bucket they sell. They kept his face to sell the chicken, but they completely ignored his screaming testimony about the quality. He sold the company in 1964. Those bitter quotes came years later as he watched them destroy his legacy. And things have only gotten worse since the Colonel died. A lot worse. KFC is owned by Yum Brands. That is the exact same megacorporation that owns Taco Bell, the chain that took the number 1 worst spot on our previous list. 2 iconic American brands. 1 massive parent company, both sitting at the absolute bottom of their respective quality lists. Sit with that for a second. In 2014, an investigative report using hidden cameras inside a massive KFC meat supplier in Shanghai filmed absolute horrors. Workers were filmed mixing rotting, green chicken with fresh product. They were filmed repackaging expired, rancid meat with fake, new expiration dates. They were filmed picking raw food straight off the filthy factory floor and tossing it onto the processing line. Chinese authorities shut the entire plant down. KFC issued slick PR statements and severed ties with that specific supplier. But the brutal, low-bid supply chain model that produced the problem in the first place, it did not fundamentally change. They fixed the headline. They kept the system. and the failures are still happening today. On December 31st, 2025, a KFC in St. Catharines, Ontario, was completely shut down by the health department. The official reason? Premises maintained in an unsanitary condition. They literally rang in the new year with a catastrophic health violation. How festive. The Colonel spent years obsessing over the precise moment chicken should leave the fryer. Yum. Brands obsesses over the precise moment profit should leave the financial quarter. One of those obsessions feeds you a good meal. The other one feeds distant shareholders. I want to know which one of these chains surprised you the most. Drop it in the comments below right now. That is the absolute worst of the worst. 8 chains that bet you would never look past the marketing. But here is what they didn't want you to know. Some chains actually did do the work. Not perfectly, not everywhere, but enough to prove that affordable fried chicken does not have to come with roach droppings and rotten meat lawsuits. 4 chains earned a spot on the safe list. That is it. Out of everything we looked at across the entire country, just 4. Here are the 4 you can actually trust. The safe 4 Slim Chickens. Here is what a chicken chain looks like when absolutely nobody from Wall Street is allowed in the room. Slim Chickens serves hand-breaded tenders with a craggy, beautifully uneven coating. That unevenness is the ultimate proof that an actual human being breaded this chicken, not a robotic tumbling machine. The chicken actually gets marinated before it gets cooked. They have 214 locations across 33 states. They started in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and they are still run by the guys who founded it. They are not part of Yum, RBI, or any massive Wall Street equity fund. There are no quarterly earnings calls, no shareholder letters, just chicken. The menu is tight and focused. Tenders, wings, sandwiches, and real Southern sauces. Now, the honest part. Slim Chickens does not publish a formal, written antibiotic standard. They are better, but they are not perfect. And yes, in 2023, a Pensacola location went viral after inspectors found nearly 20 dead roaches. But look at the response. The follow-up inspection the very next day found 0 violations. The local owner cooperated immediately and fixed the fundamental issue. Compare that to Bojangles, which failed twice in 5 days for the exact same roach problem. One chain had a pest problem and fixed it. The other chain has a pest relationship. Reviewers describe the tenders as thick, juicy, and genuinely hand-breaded. It is the kind of tender where the chicken meat is actually the main event, not just a dry vehicle for dipping sauce. Slim Chickens lands at 4 because it is a massive step up. Look for this model: focused menu, fresh product, founder-run. 3. Huey Magoo's. Every single chicken has exactly 2 tenderloins. That is all Huey Magoo's serves. Not the breast, not the thigh, not weird scraps glued together with meat chemicals and pressed into a dinosaur shape. They serve the tenderloin, what they proudly call the filet mignon of chicken, the absolute best 3% of the bird. And they put their promise in permanent writing: no antibiotics ever, no hormones, no steroids, no preservatives. Huey Magoo's has 76 locations open with over 250 more in aggressive development. The honest caveat? In 2017, a location at the University of Central Florida was an absolute disaster. Roaches, rotten food, black algae in the soda machine. It was closed down. Apparently, the filet mignon of chicken does not come with the filet mignon of sanitation automatically. But recent, modern inspections tell a completely different story. A Springfield, Missouri, location in 2026 posted 0 priority violations. The system works beautifully when it is enforced by management. Reviewers consistently describe the tenders as incredibly clean-tasting and far less greasy than the mega chains. One reviewer wrote something that stuck with me. "It tastes like chicken is supposed to taste. I forgot what that was like." Huey Magoo's lands at 3 because their sourcing claim is the new benchmark for the industry. 2. Hattie B's Hot Chicken. When a customer got sick after eating at Hattie B's and the health inspectors showed up demanding answers, Hattie B's did something almost none of the worst chains on our list could do. They calmly pulled up their digital cook logs. They showed the inspectors the exact temperatures the chicken was cooked at and the exact temperature it was held at. Every single timestamp, every single degree. The data cleared them instantly. That is what real food safety looks like. It isn't a glossy PR poster. It is a kitchen that can mathematically show its work. Walk into a Hattie B's, and the first thing that hits you is the cayenne pepper. It hangs in the air like a physical dare. The kitchen is wide open. You can see the raw chicken going in and the golden baskets coming out. Hattie B's is family-owned. Started in Nashville, they currently operate 16 locations. The Michelin Guide literally lists them as a recommended Nashville hot chicken destination. This is not a TikTok hype chain that went viral and disappeared. The credibility is real. Their Chicago expansion, Wrigleyville, River North, Wicker Park, has a flawless inspection record. 3 strict inspections. 0 means 0. Reviewers describe the chicken as intensely crispy with a cayenne heat that builds in beautiful waves. The skin crackles, and the meat stays perfectly juicy underneath. Hattie B's lands at 2 because absolute accountability is the differentiator. Ask any mega chain if they log their cook temperatures digitally. If they dodge the question, that tells you everything you need to know. 1. Jollibee. In a massive head-to-head bracket of every single major fried chicken chain in America, a Filipino chain won. Not KFC, not Popeyes, not Chick-fil-A. Jollibee's Chicken Joy took back-to-back #1 spots in USA, today's best fast food fried chicken reader's choice poll. They were the champion of Eater's national chain fried chicken bracket. A chain that most Americans have never even heard of beat every single chain that most Americans grew up eating. That sentence alone should end a few marketing careers in corporate boardrooms. Jollibee's supply chain runs through a massive partnership with Cargill, one of the biggest food companies in the world. The chicken is centrally processed, but it is breaded and pressure-fried fresh inside the store. It is industrial, yes, but they are transparent about it, and the consistency is flawless. In blind taste tests, Chicken Joy repeatedly beats competitors with 10 times the marketing budget. Jollibee started in the Philippines in 1978. This is not a fake Louisiana label slapped onto a box by a Toronto corporation. Nobody at Jollibee headquarters is pretending to be from a place they have never been. The gravy is incredibly rich and slightly sweet. The chicken is deeply marinated before breading. The flavor profile is unlike anything else in American fast food because it wasn't designed by an American fast food spreadsheet. Subscribe right now if you haven't already. Like this video and share with someone you care about who loves fried chicken. And the next time someone tries to hand you a bucket through a drive-thru window, remember, the Colonel already told you exactly what they did to his chicken. They just hoped you weren't listening. Now you are.